So let me roll here. Okay, that's rolling.
Hello,
Hi, I'm Drew.
I'm Leo, and welcome
And
back
to the DLShow, season 2.
Yes.
So it's been 500 years.
Yeah, about give or take
I
a couple
think,
hundred. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. How have you been?
I've been good. Busy with work. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's mainly what I do now.
Yeah.
Like just work, 2 days off. I try to see you and Eileen.
Mm-hmm.
Try to keep the social life alive,
Yeah.
but it's been good.
Yeah.
I have my moments though, like everyone,
Yeah.
like ups and downs, but mainly ups.
Yeah,
What
that's
about you?
good. I've been good too. I've just been same thing. It's mostly work. It's really funny because I feel like a lot of work stresses is things I take on. Like I could totally just like autopilot work and not even care, but the past couple months it's been because of projects where I'm like, I'll take it on and I'll do it. And like I'll be so stressed and I'll be like, why did I do it? Why did I do it? Why did I do it? And then it comes out successfully. And then I'm like, oh, it was all worth it. But it has been time consuming and energy draining. And besides work, I've been working on some personal projects. And so that's really exciting. But obviously, I know we've been wanting to do this. It's a little different now. I'm sure, I don't know, you guys can tell the quality
The
is
quality and hopefully the audio is better too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have help now with
Yeah.
the filming.
Yes.
We have professional help, mind you. We have Andrew's cousin, Carissa,
Yeah,
helping us.
Carissa Doll-Reyna. I was gonna say I've known her my whole life.
I'm sure you have.
I sure have. And yeah, this is really great because me and my cousin are also working on a personal project. So it's just nice to see her often. Me and Mia have always thought like my other cousin Mia, who's essentially like my sister. We always thought Carissa was like the coolest. So it feels good. It feels great having her like very much in my life. She's also queer, so it's kind of like, of course,
Well, yes.
the energy's just all
Together.
linking up. Exactly. And so, yeah, and that's why I feel like we are calling it like a season 2. Like there was a break, even though we were like, we're back.
We're waiting to get renewed. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. And we're back and better than ever. So that's why
Truly.
it feels right calling it like, okay, that first 9 episodes was trial,
Damn,
error.
9 episodes?
I know. Trial, error.
That's not bad.
No, not at all. And there was a couple episodes that we filmed and then had to like scrap. Lost media.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it feels good. And I'm happy to be doing this again.
Yeah,
This
I'm
feels
excited.
nice.
I feel I don't know if it's because like now it feels more not professional, but more like put together that we have now that we have help.
Yeah.
But I was excited, like when she told us, like like you guys can start.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, I'm like we can start. I don't know, like
100%.
it feels nice to be back.
It does. And not for nothing, like when we started this, it was then and it still is now our mission statement of just like giving our thoughts out into the world.
Yeah,
It's free.
for fun
And
yeah.
for free.
For free.
And I feel like one thing that kind of stopped it was burnout. It was tiring because we're doing all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're like audio, camera, we have to get up, we mess it up. And then it'd be kind of defeating when we would film a whole episode and it went great. And then the audio or
terrible.
terrible. The camera stopped recording 10 minutes in.
So we have to, and I feel like I don't feel like not ashamed or bad because I feel like it shows that we put in the effort.
Yeah.
Like even regardless of the quality, like we still put it out. We still put out the episode. And people like, I'm still, not to like, what's that saying? Like toot our own horn.
Yeah.
But like the fact that like at least 2 episodes got over like 400 views.
Oh yeah, one with over 500.
Yeah, one of them made that's not a lot of. I feel like not a lot of starting podcasts can say that
at all. And it feels like that we're on the right track. One thing we kind of want to do every episode going forward, season 2, maybe it'll change in season 3, but season 2 is like we're gonna talk about something we liked, this past couple weeks, and something that's like current, and then something where we're like, we did not like that, and we want to give our thoughts before we really get into the topic today. So one thing we liked, like if you couldn't tell, we watched Wicked in IMAX, and it was amazing.
Yeah. It was. I mean, we love musicals,
Mm-hmm.
and we were without a doubt we were gonna go watch it. But seeing it, it was. I don't know. It was a really fun experience, like seeing, because it's one thing seeing a musical like on Broadway or like
Yeah.
as a production, like a play or whatever, like live action.
Yeah.
But seeing it like in a movie, it's just like budget. Like you can see
course, yeah.
the real magic like be played out.
Yeah.
I don't know if
There's-
it made sense.
It does, because to me, when you're watching a play, there's a level of disbelief you have to like. If a character is clearly not flying, but there's wind blowing, you're like, okay, you're gonna pretend they're flying, But to actually see a character flying on a broomstick, to actually see this, it just adds a layer of like what feels like realism.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's some stuff I kind of wanted to say, which one thing was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of not worried, but there was a lot of hate before this movie came out. They were like, oh, the coloring looks bad. Oh, it's gonna sound bad. And there was just, they didn't agree with Ariana Grande as Glinda. You know what I mean? Like
Cynthia having the whole thing with the poster.
Oh my
Like
God,
the
you're
whole-
right.
the whole issue with the poster.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like bad baggage already.
Even the whole Ariana Grande and Ethan Slater
Slater.
thing now because of that. So
Yeah.
it had a lot. It had one chance, and it totally was mind-blowingly great.
Yeah,
like,
I
I
mean-
cried.
Oh,
It was beautiful.
I teared up. I didn't
Yeah.
cry. Maybe because the person that was sitting behind me kept kicking my seat. Or I don't know if they were doing it intentionally or like I'm sure you can see I'm not that tall, But other than that, like it was really exciting.
Yeah.
Like freeing in a way too.
Oh, and that's why I got
like
emotional.
empowering.
Yes.
Like women's stories matter.
They just matter.
They just matter.
As much as it was memed on the Cynthia's battle cry is what it's called. I was ready to laugh because it's been so memed on. Hey,
Yeah.
that's my line. But like when it happened, I got full body chills. Yeah,
maybe it was the IMAX sound quality, but like I just felt it like go up through like my whole body.
100%.
It was meant to be like the climax of the song. Her like battle cry.
Yeah.
Like, ready to take on the wizard.
Exactly. And I feel like one thing about it too is like it was kind of like chilling to a degree of how current it felt too. This kind of like concept of, they're trying to make a common enemy that all of Oz can unite against. And at first it was the animals, and now it's going to be Elphaba. And just like so much has happened since we made an episode, the election, the CEO getting shot. I just feel like we're at a very like volatile place in America right now. And I feel like Wicked kind of captured it in a good way. Like, it didn't feel like I didn't think like, I'm watching this politically hard-hitting movie.
I feel like it kidified the topic.
Yeah, made it more consumable.
Yeah,
it wasn't so
exactly
depressing. It just felt like, wow, like this kind of is what we're living through.
It's real.
It's real. It
Yeah.
is. And so, yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Cynthia was amazing. Ariana Grande was hilarious, dude. Every comedic beat, I was dying. She was fantastic. Her singing, amazing. Yes. Jonathan Bailey.
Yeah.
It was great. He was amazing. Yeah, everybody was fantastic. Some, as much as we love
Michelle
Yeoh, yeah, the singing, I was like, oh.
Yeah. I'm like,
Skip.
the Oscar was not for singing, for sure.
It was not for singing, but she was still great.
She was great.
Yeah, she was still fun to watch, and it was super entertaining, and it was long as shit, but like, I didn't feel that long. Like, so much stuff was happening. Of course, there was more times where I'm like, and then a little slower, but I was enjoying the ride.
That's how it is.
Yeah, exactly. It was great, and like, it's been getting a lot of flack because it's like basically a blockbuster that they're like, because it's been getting a lot of award recognition, and so people are hating on that because they're like, oh, this is a kid movie, this is dumb, it's bad. And I'm like, no, it's great. It's greatly made. It's greatly acted. The direction is good. The music is great. Like, I don't know. What more could you want? And
yeah, I feel like people try to like put it into like a blockbuster category just because it's doing so well.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like musicals, although they have a big scope, I feel like you can't really hold them to like let's say like Marvel standards.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, like Marvel, it getting awards, it's like okay, like what are we doing?
Yeah. 100%.
But Wicked, I mean, you can feel the passion that
Yeah.
went into making the movie.
100.
You know, like the acting, like Cynthia and Ariana, like you said, they were both great. Like not only was Ariana's like singing good, which we knew. I mean,
Yeah.
she's a Grammy winner.
Yeah.
But like her acting, like her
Yeah.
comedic. I mean, she had it in Victorious, but
That was so long ago.
but yeah, but this is like it solidifies that she is an actress too, not just a singer.
Yeah, and one thing I really quickly want to touch on about that is like I've seen a lot of people be like, which I feel like TikTok has made everybody a conspiracy theorist and like have some like delusion.
Yeah.
But so many people are like, what happened to them on that set?
Oh.
They're always crying. They're always, and I'm like, guys, this is the role of their dreams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people don't know what it's like to want something so bad
And finally getting
it exactly, because that's what they're having. And not for nothing, Wicked is an emotional film. Like, you have to take yourself to a place, like, spoilers for the film, but there's a scene where they're dancing at this dance and Elphaba is getting like mocked and she's alone and she's still dancing anyways, and like, and they've confirmed that it wasn't scripted, but she cries in it, and Glinda like comforts her, holds her, and that was like, it's real.
It's real.
It's real because it's fictional,
it's real.
but it's real because the actors took it there. And like, how can you not take it there and then just go back to press like, oh, whatever, yeah, it was a film we made, it's like la da da. Like, no, of course they're gonna be emotional about it, of course it's gonna be a lot for them, and of course I would listen. Like, I have so many like dreams of my life, you know. I hope to one day direct something that like gets recognition and is in theaters and all that. Like, I would probably be crying every single stop of the way too if that was my reality. You know what I mean? Like,
how could you not?
Exactly. So like, defend our girls, leave them alone.
Oh, speaking of empathy,
yeah.
Something we didn't like was Giselle, friend of the show,
friend of the pod,
friend of the pod.
Yeah.
She recently went through some cosmetic surgeries, and you know she is 24.
Yeah, she's
24. And there's been a lot of backlash on TikTok, especially because she has been so open about the procedure she got. And you know, modern day, like, everyone is entitled to their opinion, but I feel like what I didn't like about this was that people were being, it seemed, the way I saw it, it was more than being mad at her being so honest about what she did.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only way I could take it. Celebrities, for example, like we already talked about this a little bit. Celebrities will deny like any cosmetic surgery they get. Like, for example, Kylie with her lips. Oh, it's just I overdraw my lips.
Girl.
And then what? You have girls now you had girls back then trying to pump up the lips with the water bottles to make them look big.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I mean, I see Giselle as like a modern, like, celebrity. Yeah. Celebrities have to get to that point where they have to be honest with what they do. Mm-hmm. Because if they don't, then it's just a facade. And I feel like that's the thing about Giselle. She likes to be, like, true to herself.
Yeah.
You know? And that's why I feel like she wanted to share. You know, it's not real, but, like, you know, she acknowledges it that it's not real. And, like, she just wants the audience to know.
Yeah, not for nothing, one thing I feel about it, too, is that it almost feels like when you're a woman, like, you can't please anybody. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, if she would have gotten the surgery and not told anybody, oh, you're creating unreal expectations for women, blah, 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 blah. Why are you lying about your surgery? And then she became honest about her surgery. You know, she showed the difficult process. She showed, like, how she looked right after it, you know, almost as a warning. Like, listen, like, what I'm doing isn't easy and pretty.
Because she's not saying, go get surgery. No, she's like, watch out.
Watch out. You know, I'm doing this because I want to do it. She's talked about that, you know, I know Giselle very closely, and, you know, she goes to therapy. She's very emotionally intelligent. And what she does is none of our business. And you have so many people creating these TikToks for like 6 minutes talking about what she's doing, how it's so bad. And of course, there's a level of understanding I have with what their message is, which is like, oh, love yourself. Okay, That's very, of course, of course. But the thing is, who are we to tell somebody how they should love themselves?
Exactly.
And here's the thing also I feel like about this situation involving like bestie, is that you read so many of the comments and they're like, "Oh, I'm glad I love myself. I'm glad that I don't need to do this. I'm glad." And you realize, like, to me, it's like there are people who are using this opportunity to shit on her to make themselves feel better because they're probably insecure. They're probably insecure and they look at someone who's doing something about something they're insecure about, and because they can't afford it, they're like hating on them. Like, "Oh, like that's why I'm glad I love my natural self." And I'm like, "Do you?" Cuz I'm someone who loves my natural self. I'm not going to take the time to hate on somebody who gets stuff done. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it feels almost like also counterproductive because you can tell these people they're going to go this moral message of, "Oh, we just want people to love themselves," but you're creating this online hate campaign against a 24-year-old woman. What's your guys' end goal? Do you want her to like kill herself? Exactly.
Can't say that word.
I know it'll be censored.
Yeah.
Like, what is your end goal? Do you want to shame her so bad she hates herself again? Do you want her to reverse the surgeries, which is also dangerous and difficult and expensive? Like, you guys have to think about the fact that, yes, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Not everybody should be sharing their opinion. And it really pisses me off because nowadays people feel like, "Oh, I have an open platform. I can say whatever and do whatever." And I'm like, no. Like, yeah, you can, but you're only going to inspire more hate. And if your quote unquote message about saying all this stuff about her is to spread positivity, you're doing a horrible job at it. Because, again, you're just creating another platform for thousands and thousands of people to gang up on a Mexican woman, a young Mexican woman, And again, all she wants to do is be transparent, and all she wants to do is show the reality of dealing with these things. Yes, she's young. Who cares? And honestly, it bothers me too. Like, what 12-year-old girl is going to open TikTok, see Giselle got whatever, and it's like, "I want to do that too now." Like, no. And if she does, it's because she has horrible parents who aren't a good role model. Like, it has everything to do with, like, why do you feel so easily swayed by someone who's online than your own people, your own thoughts, And so, yeah, it does piss me off. And I'm like, I have so much love and I have so much sympathy for Giselle. We both do. And like, I'm so happy that she's such a confident, strong woman. I know this is like water off her back ultimately.
Yeah. For her, it's more engagement.
Exactly. She's smart and she's very self-assured, which I can't say the same about a lot of people who are hating, a lot of people who are making these TikToks.
And that's why I feel like Giselle is the perfect person to would do something like this. Because like at the end of the day, she doesn't care.
Yeah. She's
just doing it because she's doing it for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, water off her back for her. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Right?
Like a duck.
Because like she's not gonna be there like, "Oh, what are people saying? What are people like?" No,
exactly.
She's just gonna move on.
And I feel like that's also the difference. If you get cosmetic surgery for the approval of others, if you don't get that approval, you're gonna like be like spiraling.
Yeah.
But she's doing it for herself. So then that's why it's all like, whatever, y'all can hate. I don't care.
Yeah, it was very not weird, but like just seeing TikToks pop up.
It was.
I just saw the video of the 24-year-old and her best friend. I'm like,
Sarah, we love you too.
I know Sarah, we love her too.
Yeah.
Like, why are you guys so bothered about it?
100. It was surreal because like at this point, like, Giselle, we've spent birthdays with her, with us, like Giselle is a close, dear friend of ours, and so like seeing this big spotlight on her and trying to paint it like she's some like horrible mastermind who's like out to rot the minds,
change girls.
Exactly. I'm like, no, you guys create narratives and run with it, and I'm honestly like, I'm disgusted. It's really disgusting how easy it is for people to come together
against a common enemy.
Exactly.
And it all ties back to Wicked.
Yep. No, it does. It does. And you know what? She's defying gravity.
And she is. Yeah. And you can't bring her down.
You can't bring her down. Period.
No. Mm-hmm. Because she's just, we love Giselle.
We love you, Giselle.
Like, never change.
Never. Only change when you want to change.
When you feel like changing.
When you, exactly. Now that we're talking about things you like what's your song? What's your song of the week? What have you been
Okay.
about?
For my song of the week, I chose the 365 remix with Shy Girl. I chose this song because we went. I forgot October. I think like October 19th or whatever.
Yeah.
Me knowing the date. Andrew and I, we went to see Charlie and Troy at the Sweat Tour. We went to Santa Ana, and it was really fun. It was like a quick
blast.
like 2 day. No, like not even 2 day. Like 1 day trip. We went. We drove up. We got to the hotel. We got ready. We pre-gamed. I'm not gonna say what because I don't know if it would be incriminating. But yeah, it was really fun. I mean, I got really faded.
Oh,
I got faded as bad.
yeah, no.
And it was a really really fun. Like Charlie was great, Troy was great, and like I mean, I went with my best friend, so it was a great time. And that song always reminds me of like just
Yeah, and it's so funny because there was a couple of quote unquote bumps. Like, so shout out, I love my pops. And like, he had told me like a week in advance because I was like asking, my pops lives in Santa Ana. The Sweat Tour was in LA. And so I was like, hey, like, could me and two of my friends like stay at your place? Like, we'll get an air mattress, we'll sleep on the floor, the couch, we'll do whatever. Like, and then from there go. And he was like, how about like I just get you guys a hotel? Like,
Whoa.
we were like, oh, a
Whoa,
hotel?
yes.
One night he's like 2 queen beds. And I'm like, that's perfect. Like we just had it all worked out and everything. And we arrive at the hotel day of, and like we go through the door, one bed. There's a corner where a couch should be. There's nothing. Yeah, like we were like, oh, and so I like texted my pops. I'm like, hey pops, like, oh, thank you again for the hotel. We made it. I'm like, but just letting you know, like, there's not a second bed here. I don't know if you paid or. Dude, he literally is like, beggars can't be choosers. You said you would sleep on the floor, so you should be fine there. And I'm like, okay, thank you, pops.
But you know,
it was funny.
And we just laughed it out.
Exactly.
I mean, exactly. That's all we could do.
We were there for Charlie. We weren't even like, we just used the spot to sleep, get ready, and eat there. And yeah, so honestly, it was a great time. And yeah, I wouldn't change anything. Like you said, it was like it was
lucky a perfect trip.
It was. You know, we were so gone, but we had such a great time. Like I remember that Girl So Confusing remix was playing, and I saw Charlie was on stage, and I saw Presence enter, and I was like, oh my God, thinking it's Lord. It was just the cameraman. But you know, nothing could bring me down. We didn't get any real guests. We got Vinny Hacker. Vinny Hacker.
Which, you know, of course.
Yeah. But like, what did he do? Yeah. You know, but it was a good time, honestly. Like, we had a blast.
It was.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your
my song? Oh yeah. So I am becoming more and more of a fan of Tyla. You know, the Make Me Sweat, Make Me Hotter. And she released a new album this year, and I've been really listening to it a bunch. And the album was great, but then she released like a deluxe and has this one song, Push to Start, which is like, a hit. And I've been obsessed. And honestly, what I've been more obsessed about is like, it wasn't until like a bit after I really got into the song, but there's a dance for it. And it's so complicated, low-key, and it involves a lot of hip movements. But every day I watch so many of them because I'm trying to like learn it. Like I feel like her music is kind of, you know, Pon de Replay, SOS era of Rihanna, like Rude Boy. You know, it's bringing that era of like island pop back, and it feels great, and it makes me want to dance. And so it's been inspired me. I've honestly been considering taking like dancing classes just because the music's like, it really gets me wanting to move. Yeah. And so she's great. She's fantastic. I love her.
Yeah, I've only low-key heard the Water song.
Yeah, hit though too. Yeah.
I've never heard the
Push to Start. Not
yeah.
Pushing on my button with no hesitation. Like it eats. We'll play it later. Yeah. And then so we can go ahead. We have a topic today.
Today's topic. Well, we like speaking about lost episodes or lost media.
Literally.
This was this is like a recycled topic. We lost the audio. It was just a mess, but it was such a good episode.
Yeah.
That we felt like it was such a good episode that we just wanted to like redo it. Mm-hmm. But it is about being. It's about like gay best friends.
Yeah.
Or being the gay best friend.
Yes.
More specifically, like to a girl.
I was gonna say it's very much about the dynamic between a gay man and his female, most of the time straight best friend, and like pros and cons and just our overall thoughts on it. And so I can give a quick little, for those who are like, what's a GBF or gay best friend? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, is that just the best friend who's gay? And it's like, yes, but there's also kind of like a long history of like kind of a trope. Like, if you're the GBF, you're the accessory to the straight female friend who has her own life. You know, she's the one dating, and it's the GBF who's supporting. It's the GBF who's like, oh, yes, go girl, you know, and like a lot of early 2000 movies. It'll be the main character, the straight woman, and it's a romance, and then the gay best friend who's basically asexual. Like, there's no love interest there. If the love, he's just there, you know, and that's kind of what I feel like a lot of gay men have felt, you know, like they're just there when it comes to like having a female friend who's straight, and you know, we've had experiences great with having strong female friendship, and there's been experiences where like it has hurt, you know, or there's been experiences where we've been let down, and not necessarily because they're straight females, because friends sometimes let each other down, but there are certain dynamics that are kind of like a little difficult to, you know. I really feel like, you know, gay men and straight women do live in different worlds, and the friendship like helps overlap stuff, and you get to see
bridge.
It is exactly, but ultimately we do exist in different realities, you know. I can't tell you the amount of times in high school, even after high school, college, where I would be like, I feel alone, you know, I feel so like sad. And these friends that are girls who have always had hot guys after them their whole lives, who have always had a boyfriend, who have always had men hit on them, they're like, just, you should be fine being alone, and like friendship, and yes, of course, but there's just a different dynamic. Like, queer loneliness and straight loneliness are different, you know. When you're gay and alone, like romantically, like you're literally alone. Like, you can be in a school of hundreds of kids and not one of them will be open to it, you know. But if you're a straight woman and you're in a school with hundreds of kids, chances are, even if you're not attracted to them or not, you know, no one's saying, oh, you need to be with them because they like you, but there is a feeling of feeling desirable, you know. And it one thing, if I can say, of like a quote unquote con or something that's really hurt, I felt like my self-esteem for a long time, was it's so easy, you know, to befriend the pretty straight girl, and the pretty straight girl will have your back, you know. Like, the amount of times in middle school where like guys I felt like would like not bully me because my best friend was somebody one of them liked, you know. And if one of them were rude, I'd be like,
I love that.
Right? I'd be like, he was mean, and like, oh fuck, you know, screw him, and like, like, I love the feisty straight girls too, who will go and tell the guy like, you're being mean to my friend. Like, literally the photo of like Beyonce and then Jay-Z's behind him, like, excuse me, he said no pickles. You know. And it's great, and there's that shield there that it's like allyship, you 100%. Know what I mean? It is, and that has some goodness for sure. Of course, it honestly, it can be life-saving, you know. Like, the amount of times I would have felt alone if I didn't have my straight girl there, but like, I got you. But one thing that I felt like has the double-edged sword of it is, you know, you're friends with these gorgeous pretty girls, and these gorgeous pretty girls get these gorgeous hot men, and there's been so many times where I had this one friend where like I love her so much, and we've had so many ups and downs, but I remember there was a time where like I wouldn't even tell her when I liked a guy, because one, I knew it wouldn't happen between me and the guy, you know, he was straight, but two, it's because I know she could get him, and like it felt weird, you know. Like, there's a lot of times where this friend, I'd be like, oh, this guy's cute, and she's like, right, and then she would get with him, and like, I get it, like, who am I to stop that? There was no place, but it can't help but hurt, because I'm like,
I feel like that's just a bad friend.
Well, yes.
Like, okay, you know, like, I feel like it depends.
Yeah, no.
Because, like, for example, I mean, that, and like, going back to your shield thing, I feel like that's why I always try to be friends with like pretty girls, because like pretty girls, like you said, a shield. Like, guys are not gonna bother you.
Yeah.
And you know, like, maybe because I was big too, and like, who's gonna punch me? You know, like, punch you back.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I feel like girls, like pretty girls, are always a safe space.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's always like, well, like I told you, like a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
You know, like, you both in a way like help each other grow, and like I feel like that's just the overlap of being kind of, I guess, like attracted to men. You know, because women understand what it's like being attracted to men.
Yeah.
And gay men are attracted to men.
Yeah.
So, there is that kind of like, what's that word? Like commonality between
Yeah, but I would argue the difference is, yes, we're both attracted to men, but 9 times out of 10, the men are attracted to the girls.
Well, yeah.
And that's where I think that's not even like, and it's not their fault. You know what I mean? It's just, it's just kind of like a painful truth of it, like, like there's a scene from Glee.
Oh, I was gonna bring it up.
No, literally, we're like, Kurt, who's the gay guy, is into this guy Finn, who's straight, and he was kind of trying to like make fun of Rachel, who's a straight woman who's into Finn, and he's like, oh, he's not into you or whatever. She's like, well, even if he thinks I'm ugly, like the ugliest person ever, like I still have more of a shot than you ever will. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's because that's true.
I know you felt like
100%, because that's been my experience of like, and again, like it's not their fault that they're like wanted, and it's a lot of the time, it also was my own insecurity growing up a teen. Like now, of course, it doesn't bother me. I'm a grown man, you know what I mean? Like it's not that big of a deal. But when you grow up, when you're like building the foundation of your self-esteem, and you see all your peers get these hot guys who are into them, and guys who you might even have a connection with, like there's been numerous times where there's a straight guy who like me and him click, like we crack each other up, we talk, all that. Like on paper, we would be a great couple. I'm just not a pretty girl, and so I will never have.
Not a pretty girl.
I would be a pretty girl.
Well, you're not a pretty girl.
And that's it's true. I'm not a pretty girl.
You're not.
And that's okay. But like,
you're a boy.
I'm a boy. I'm a pretty boy, And so like, you just kind of have to adjust your expectations. But it's hard when you have a straight girlfriend, because then you live their life a bit, and then they're telling you their issues,
100%.
and you want to have that too.
Because for example, like at work, I have a friend, and she's this. I don't know how. I think she's a couple years younger than me, like 2 or 3. But she is starting to talk to this guy, and like I love when she tells me stuff, because I can't help just like feeling excited for her.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's more like I get to live that like a smidge of like her relationship through her, or like the building of her relationship with that guy. Yeah. Because she'll tell me like, yeah, like we drove, like he likes to drive around, and I held his hand, and it's like, and I feel like that's for me one of the like benefits, or like a pro of being a GBF, is like I get a taste of like romanticism through my friends. Yeah. And like I'm comfortable being alone. And I feel like a big part of it is because I've seen relationships through my friends. I've seen good relationships. I've seen terrible, horrible relationships. So like I feel like I get the idea of it. And like for me, it's more the thought than actually like the doing the thing. Yeah. So her telling me like everything she does with her, like her with that guy, it's nice. Yeah. It's almost like a window to like her world. Yeah.
And you said it. It's symbiotic.
It's symbiotic relationship.
You're getting, and because she benefits from it too.
It's like a two-way relationship. Yeah. Yes. She gets my input, but also like an advice that I feel like. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm like the love doctor, but I feel like the way I approach situations, I feel like it's really good for relationships. Yeah. I always try to be like a third person like narrator in a way. Just like seeing the whole situation from the outside. I know. And I feel like it allows to have an open mind, and also just like get a good eye of the situation. Yeah. And,
I remember when we watched Euphoria season 2, you felt so seen. Because Lexi, she was like, I'm the observer, know? And I feel like that, when you're outside of it, it's almost like the people who can, like, read everybody else's future but their own. Like, you just get so much experience of others. It's so easy to see it. And when you're the GBF, all the girls are telling you all their stuff. Yeah. And, like, you get to pick up of, like, oh, well, when this person does this with this person, it meant this. So if this person is dealing with the same thing, it probably means that. And I feel like as a GBF, you know, I think it's safe to say a lot of women feel this way, and I've grown up with women my whole life. There is some discourse between women sometimes, you know, and sometimes a teenage girl just wants to tell her gay best friend something that she wouldn't tell her other girlfriends. You know, I've had the experience a lot where I would build codependencies with these female friends because they felt like we had, and I felt it too, we had a stronger bond. I would have a stronger bond with her than I would my guy friends and my own, and she would have a stronger bond with me than her own girlfriends, because it's almost like yin yang. You kind of like, you know, it just clicks. It complements each other. You know what I mean? It really does click. But then sometimes, you know, that can be bad. Like I one time had a friendship, and you know, I will always love this girl, and like we have so many off and ons in our friendship where sometimes we won't talk for years, but then we'll be right back, you know. But I felt like me and her really got close our freshman year of high school. We're super duper close, and then she kind of started talking to this guy who had outed me my freshman year, who had told people that when I told him that I liked guys. And I remember telling her that. You bring a good point. Because that, she just went, I don't care, basically. She started dating him. Oh, I'm not trying to say it's because she's a woman, but one thing about it is being a GBF to a woman who can't decenter men is such a hard thing. You know, because in a way, you are a man in her life. But the second she gets another man in her life, it's like, goodbye. And that was mine. I don't want to play with you. I don't want to play with you no more. Yeah. That was mine and hers dynamic. It happened like, honestly, probably several times where the first time we got into it, because I'm like, dude, like, I feel like you're selfish. You know, and she's like, whatever, fine. I have my man. I feel like to her, like, you truly were just an accessory. Yeah, exactly. Like, she just saw you as that. And that's me living the genuine GBF. Mm-hmm. That was me as a genuine GBF, not like, oh, I'm just gay and we're best friends, you know? Like how I feel with Eileen. I would not say, like, we jokingly were like, we're her GBF, I guess, but no, we're best friends. We don't say any of that. But that is an example of, like, being the disposable person, you know? And that hurts, being the disposable friend. And, you know, when they got together, her and the guy who outed me, then they broke up. He broke her heart, and me and her became friends again. Of course, they get back together. She drops me. No. Again, it kind of it crushes you because, like, 9 times out of 10, if you're in a codependent friendship with a girl and you're a gay guy, the girl's gonna get a boyfriend before you. Oh, it's so rare that the gay best friend gets a boyfriend and then drops the girl. You know, it's more often than not the other time around.
And I feel like. Also, that wouldn't. I don't think it would happen because I feel like gay men also value their friendships more.
100%.
I feel like for example, like me, I feel like I truly care for my friends. You know, like even the ones I don't talk to in like years or months, I know like no matter what, like if I call them, they'll pick up. You know, and it'll be like I just talked to them the day before. Yeah. And I feel like that's part of growing up. Yeah. I feel like being a GBF, it's very like I love this metaphor, bonsai and cactus friendships. Mm-hmm. Like when you're growing up or when you're younger, it's very bonsai. You always have to be talking to them. You always have to be like, you know, you have to tend to it or it'll dry out. Yeah. But like the older you get, I think it turns more into a cactus friendship. You don't have to tend to it every day, but like, you know, a little bit of water here and then, it'll still create beautiful flowers. Yeah. And I feel like that's very important to like take in consideration because, for example, like I have a friend, she has like her family. She has kids. She's like with someone. And I don't get to see her often, but whenever, like, we'll send memes, she'll send me things that, like, if she agrees with them, but she can't repost them, she'll be like, silent repost. It's like, I hate my kids. No, it's not that. But it's like, you know, I feel like, even, like, true and all, a GBF is still, like, a safe space for women. Yeah. You know, because, like you said, you can be told whatever you want, and you won't judge them like girlfriends would. Yeah. Because, like, I mean, I'm sure if a mother told like their friend, I hate my kids, they'd be like, really? Mm-hmm. Kind of like Sex in the City. I was literally thinking Sex in the City with Miranda like, and Charlotte. Yeah, like, tell me something. And you know, like I said, gay men serve as a safe space for women, but it's also about growing together.
Yeah.
Because, for example, like you with that one friend, if she still did it where she, dumped you every time she got a new boyfriend, of course you like. Now that you're grown, you wouldn't stick around for it.
No.
Because you know better.
Yeah. And like you said, you just kind of have to grow together with it. And that's also where, like, I feel like you grow out. You're supposed to grow out of that stereotype of like GBF and the girlfriend. You eventually grow into people where you're both of your lives equal, have equal matter, and that's why you understand when the other person is busy because you respect their lives. Like I think about Eileen. If I didn't respect her life, I'd be like, who cares about law school? Why aren't you talking to me? But I love her and I respect her. So I'm like, you do you. And whenever we can hang out, I'm going to cherish every moment of it. And I feel like a lot of people are like, they have this main character syndrome. They're like, no, you're my supporting character. You need to be ready when I'm ready. And you need to hang out with me when I need to hang out. And like to be a GBF is to be a supporting character. It is to live your life to support your straight female friend. And that is exhausting. That can really be detrimental to your self-esteem because you always feel like I need to be supporting somebody else. I can't just live my own life.
It makes you codependent.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so easy because you become the codependent person.
But they don't.
But they don't.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is why when they get a man,
it's easy for them to drop.
To drop you. Yes, 100%. And to go back to that old friendship, like I'll never forget. Like obviously me and her were very close. And this is high school. Like we moved on. But when we had our falling out the second time, it was noticeable. I mean, how you go from posting that you're hanging out with somebody every day and then you see them and they don't even mention them and you can tell. Yeah. And they asked her, like, oh, why don't you and Andrew talk anymore? Why don't you and Drew talk anymore? She's like, oh, he was obsessed with me. Ew. Is literally what she would tell people. Yeah. And like to a degree I was, but because
you were friends.
Exactly. I was 17. I was a kid. And this was a friend who like I played the role of a boyfriend in the sense of like I would hang out with her every day. Hey, I want to go run some errands. Want to join me? The best. You do stuff. It's the best feeling ever. And so to have that weaponized against me, to have thrown that in my face, like, oh, you were just obsessed with me. Like, oh, that hurt. That hurt really bad.
Because you look bad, and then she
I
comes out
exactly. Yeah, like, oh, that's just a crazy gay boy who's just trying to live his life as a straight woman. I'm like, no, like we were equals.
Or at least you thought.
At least I thought, and that's why, again, I think it's very cool. And I feel like there's a genuine difference between being friends with someone who treats you like an accessory and then someone who treats you like an equal. You can tell the difference. The older you get, you can recognize them more. But when you're younger, and that's why I feel like this is for those. I think a lot of people now, if you're an adult, you're not a GBF anymore. You probably just have.
You're just gay.
You're just gay. Exactly. No, yeah, positive. You're just gay. Oh, yeah. But
positive.
Yeah, but like this is almost like for those who live that life, or maybe you're in high school and you're seeing this, you're like, oh, this is me with my friend, like it sucks. And like honestly, I feel like, I mean, this is more recent. I've told you about it, but one thing I kind of want to talk about that I feel like is just like, dude, sometimes people don't let that go, and like it's so interesting because you can be a GBF and you can be friends with a straight woman. And she can be homophobic or have homophobic tendencies and you not even know it. And like, here's something I think a lot of people will relate to. How many gay boys out there have had a bestie girlfriend or a friend who like you love but she has a boyfriend who says faggot. You know what I mean? Or she has a boyfriend who's transphobic. Or she has a boyfriend who's homophobic.
She's like, baby,
stop it. Yeah. Like this isn't you. But it is them. And like, that's because homophobia isn't a deal breaker to them, because that, to me, there is a level of you're homophobic. If you can allow homophobia in your life and give minor, I don't like, oh, but I tell him not to say it, but he's going to keep saying it. Leave him. Yeah. If I matter to you, like you swear I do, then you would leave that man. And so some of these straight best friends that are girls are homophobic internally or externally. That's like externally, you know what I mean? Where I'm like, you allow this, like you come to Pride every year, but you have your boyfriend at home calling me a faggot. Like, what's that? You know what I mean? I had this one childhood best friend, like me and her had known each other since 7th grade, and her boyfriend would literally like say shit to my face. He'd be, oh, you only like that because you're gay. You're like, he would literally say shit to my face. And I would just be like, I can't believe you allow that. You know, like, aren't we best friends? You know. And again, it's because to a degree you're disposable, because you're the accessory, you're the supporting character. Your feelings matter less. It's like, oh, that sucks. But your feelings about feeling discriminated against matter less than my attraction towards my boyfriend. Because it's high school. You're not married. You know what I mean? Like, this is a guy that you've been dating for 2 months and you've known me for 4 years. Like, why does he get a fucking priority?
You know, I mean, not to excuse that friend, but I feel like back then during like high school, I feel like that felt like marriage, probably. You know,
1,000,000,000%. Yeah,
we can't. Okay, we can, but I feel like we can't hold it to the same degree as, like, let's say, like, for example, what happened with.
Oh, and we're gonna talk about that. Yeah.
Because okay, that happened recently. You guys were out of high school.
Oh yeah.
It was already.
We're 500 at that point.
Exactly. That would be more, like, okay, like, I'm not taking away from it, like, you know, or I'm not trying to diminish it.
No.
But because it was high school.
Yeah.
But I feel like. Yeah, you can't, like, hold it to the same.
No, and and a lot of that, like I said, you know, and you said it too. You need to grow. Yeah. You need to grow out of it. You need to grow together. You know, I've had a friend who, this isn't the same friend, but I, like, one time made a tweet. This was years ago, and I was like, "Oh, don't bring your homophobic boyfriends to Pride." And she's like, "I'm so sorry. Is this about me?" Like, and I'm like, "I didn't even know your boyfriend was homophobic." You know,
if the shoe fits.
But if the shoe fits, you know. But she was very, like, apologetic, and she, like, you know. And at that point, we were maybe 18, 19. You can tell she was growing out of it. You can tell, like, we're kids. I'm not gonna be like, "You 16-year-old girl, you're a bitch." You know what I mean? Like, you walk like a bitch. When I was 10, someone said that. Like, no, I'm not gonna blame her. But that doesn't, like you said it too, it doesn't invalidate how I felt as a kid. You know, how I felt as a kid too. Like, I'm going to give you grace, but just know it impacted me at that time. One thing about it is, like, so I talked about external, right? Like, your straight friend who keeps homophobia around her. Now, I've had a straight friend, you know, bisexual, but a bisexual woman who's...
Who only dates men.
Who only dates men and centers her life around men. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. A lot of people where, like, your morals are indistinguishable from a straight woman. Yeah. And, like, you know, that doesn't mean your attraction is invalid, but your morals, how you live your life, how you go about it, how you move is like a straight woman. Yeah. And so I have this friend who, like, God, and nothing worse. There's nothing worse than being friends with somebody who just centers men in their life. Or same with women. You know, that one friend who's always just trying to get somebody. Like, just be cool. You know what I mean? Just vibe. Like, why is it always you need validation from this? And so I've had this friend for, like, basically my whole life. We're not friends anymore. Who, for a long time, I used to think was the coolest person because she never thought what men thought of her. Never thought what anybody thought of her. She would, like, people would hate her. But I respected it because, you know, she was herself. And she was so unapologetic. Like, when people would call it out, she'd be like, "I don't care. You know, that's me." And I you know, and it wasn't like she was mean to them. She was unapologetic, and they didn't like that. So there's a difference. You know, I won't excuse somebody who's mean to people and like, they're just keeping it real. It wasn't like that. They were just being genuine themselves. They wouldn't sugarcoat stuff like you're kind of expected to, and people didn't like that. So for a long time, I always respected that about her, and I always was impressed by the fact that I'm like, how can you not think that's cool? That somebody doesn't care what other people think, you know? But then she ended up getting with this guy who fundamentally, like, broke her heart. And I feel like after that, she just completely changed. Like, she did everything in her power to try and keep him in her life. And there was times where I literally was like, hey, you know, bringing out all these things that he's done her wrong. And she just straight up told me, she's like, "I don't care what you say, nothing's going to change my mind." And at that point, I'm like, whoa, you know, like, you're gone. You're lost. Like, you are so centering yourself around this man. And so that was a little years. This was more close to college years. But I remember little things like this. Like, she was talking to this guy. And this guy had given us a ride home one day. And so I found him on Instagram. Yeah, I looked him up because I was like, oh, you know, we had a cool exchange. He picked us up from the mall. You know, I'm like, cool guy.
Was he like an Uber driver or like?
No, like he was. He just. Them? They were talking. Oh, they weren't even official. They were talking, and she was like, "Oh, like we didn't have a ride home," and he picked us up. Oh, it's like really cool. You know, like they're not even boyfriend girl. Like, you know, he just did it. So I was like, that's awesome. So I followed him, and she tells me, she's like, "You're weird for that." She's like, why are you following my, like, you know where? And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Like, one, I'm gay. He's not. Two, that's your man. I'm not trying anything. Like, I'm literally that person, like, especially if I'm drunk. I'm like, oh, do you have Instagram? Do you have Instagram? Like, I love, let's support each other. You know what I mean? Let's just follow. Like, what is the harm?
It's a follow.
It's a follow.
Yeah.
Exactly. But she took it so personal. She was literally like, I feel like you're moving weird about it. I'm like, what? Like, girl, like, it's not that deep. We worked over it. But, like, that is kind of, like, fundamentally her. Where, like, she takes everything as a threat to her man. And I'm like, oh, I'm girl. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to come for you. Fast forward to this past year or so. Again, I've known this girl since we were in 7th grade. Like, over a decade of friendship at this point. And all of it was thrown away for a man, you know? And that experience was, like, it both saddened me but angered me. And it really showed about, like, priorities. You know, so after she got her heart broken, she ended up seeing this guy who I had known since I was in high school myself. You know, San Diego, you know, it's kind of small. We all went to the same high school. And yeah, for like a year, you know, we had a class together. I thought it was cute, you know, but I wasn't like in love with him. I didn't even have like a crush. I just thought he was cute. I mean, him talked a bit. So I was like, oh, he's cute, you know? And so she ends up talking to this guy, the same guy. And she was like, okay, like she was kind of being like, I feel like you're being weird with me. Like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, of course everything's okay. She's like, oh, it's because I thought you've been weird because I've been hanging out with him. I'm like, I don't care. She's like, well, I just want to make sure, like, you for sure don't like him. Like, for sure. And I was like, I don't like him, you know? Like, okay, I thought he was cute when I was 16. Like, we're 40. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? We moved past this. And she's like, okay. She starts seeing him, which, one, I had to find that out from a third party. Like, I found that out from somebody who saw them and told me. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, whatever. So she was kind of being very, like, secretive about it. She was moving weird about it. And I'm like, whatever, I don't care, you know? Like, maybe she thought she was saving my feeling. I don't know. I can't stress how little I cared, you know? So then I was just happy for her that she was moving on past that guy who did her dirty. Yeah. So then they end up talking more. They're dating. And they kind of were very kind of strange about the relationship. I told her, because I was kind of friends. I was barely kind of friends with the guy she ends up seeing. And I told her when they started seeing each other, I'm like, hey, like, I'm going to treat him as if he's your boyfriend. Like, he's not, me and him were never even that close. So, like, you know, I'm like, sometimes I'll rag on him. And she'd be like, oh, but I thought you guys were friends. I'm like, I'm just ragging on him like I would rag on any girl's boyfriend. Like, no man will ever be good enough for you in my eyes, you know? And so, like, it's more of, it comes from that context, that light of, like, no, like, so then I just don't prioritize him that much as a friend. And I mentioned to her one time, just, like, jokingly, I'm like, oh, yeah, ever since you guys started dating, he stopped asking me to hang out, which was true. I didn't care. Again, I didn't care. So then, after I say that, maybe a week or two after, no, like, less than a week after, he messages me, but I didn't respond. I'm a bad texter. Boom. Like, there's, like, 3 people I respond to, but I'm usually a horrible texter. And I didn't end up responding to him. And I get a text from this friend, the girl. And she goes, respond to him. Oh. No, hey, how are you? Just respond to him. And I literally was like, no, LOL. But I'm like, oh, just kidding. Like, why? What's up? It's like, oh, well, it's because you're not responding to him. Like, and I'm like, oh, it's just because I forgot. Like, it's not, you know? And she's like, oh, okay. Which already was a red flag. You know, I've known her for 10 years. She's dating him for 2 months. All of a sudden, she's on his side, you know? And I'm like, that felt weird, you know? So I kind of took a step back from being friends with both of them. And then me and her end up hanging out. It was a group setting. After the group setting, it's just me and her. And she goes, can we address the elephant in the room? And I was like, when you're the elephant in the room. Yeah, and I was like, and I didn't even know. I thought me and her were cool because 2 weeks before, I took her to LA for a concert. We had a great time. So I was like, what? Like, what? And I thought she was beefing with somebody in that group. So I was like, oh, God, like, what happened? What's tea? She's like, but I'm like, with who? She's like, with us. I'm like, oh, what? That when you're the elephant in the room? Yeah. And I was like, what? What's up? And she's like, I feel like you've been weird with me ever since me and him started dating, me and that guy. She's like, I thought you said you didn't like him. And I'm like, I don't like him. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I kind of took a step back after I felt like you kind of were pressing me about him. And, like, it just kind of felt, okay. But, like, me and you are cool. Like, we're good. I just am not really cool with him, you know? Or I'm like, I'm whatever about him. And, we just got into it because she was like, well, you guys used to be best friends. and now you don't even talk? And I'm like, we have never, what are you talking about? We were never best friends. Like, we were barely friends. She's like, yeah, you guys were. She was literally telling me what mine and his friendship was, and just did not want to take any form of accountability that, and you know what she told me? She's like, oh yeah, well, I told him to message you and you never responded. And I was like, I never told you to say that. She's like, well, you were blaming me, saying it was my fault you guys don't talk anymore. And I'm like, I never said that. Like, she was just making it about her, you know, very personal. And I'm like, dude, like, it's not like that. We somehow get over it. And so after that, of course, I'm like, actually, you're both weird. You know, so I distanced myself from both of them. And then it's Halloween 2020 something. And my roommate, who's friends with that group, was like, oh, I got invited to a party. Do you want to come? And I was like, kind of didn't want to see them there, to be honest. But he's like, oh, they won't be there. And I'm like, okay, fine. I go. They're both there. But then I hadn't hung out with my girlfriend in so long. So I was like, you know what? And I spent the whole night talking with her, and we had a blast. Like, we weren't even talking with other people. It was just us, you know? We had such a great time, and I was so happy about that night, you know? And I was literally like, you know what? Like, friendship who's going to be okay, you know, as I believed. And so after the party ends, the four of us, me, my roommate, girlfriend, and her boyfriend, we walked to our cars. And because I'd spent the whole night talking to my girlfriend, I was like, let me chat with her boyfriend. We're talking. He puts his arm on my shoulder. I put my arm around his hip, kind of like Sailor, and we're just chatting, you know? When we get to our cars, we turn. I almost said her name. The girlfriend just walks away. And we were like, oh, okay, awkward. And I was like, oh, she probably got into it with the boyfriend. So I was like, okay, whatever. I get home that night and I send a message. And I'm like, hey, I want you to know I love you so much. You know, I send this whole, like, I love you. Had a great night with you, yada, yada. And she goes, what you did tonight was really disrespectful. You, like, broke girl code with me. Like, I would never. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she felt like I was flirting with him in front of her. And I was like, your mind is diseased. Like, you have to be crazy, obsessed with your man to think I was coming on to him. Like, I've known this guy for years. We're kind of touchy. We were just literally like shoulder, like what? And she refused to believe it. She was like, no, I would never. If you were dating a man, I would never make him think that of you. And I'm like, I wouldn't even care, you know? Like, I'm not insecure. Like, clearly you're insecure.
She gave insecure.
Exactly. But she was projecting it onto me like somehow I was the bad friend in that situation. Whatever. She ended up breaking up with him. You would think that would mean the end of that. And she apologizes. Okay, we're cool. Her and the guy keep on talking. And then he does her so dirty. To the point where I literally, like, I'm like, I don't want him in my life, you know? Even now, even though me and this girl are not friends anymore, I want nothing to do with him, you know? He did her so dirty, and I'm like, fuck you, you know? And so she like, is very heartbroken about it. She comes to me, and I'm comforting her, and we go through this together, and I'm an emotional support for her. You know, it's one of the things she tells me. She's like, can you just promise me something? Again, he did her so dirty that I was just like, ugh, you know? She's like, can you just promise you're not going to sleep with him? I'm like,
ew.
I'm
like, why are you thinking about that?
Why are you thinking of that? You're crazy. I was like, what? Like, what? No, I'm like, and that just shows me, I'm like, what do you think I am? Like, do you think I'm just some, like, gay slut who's trying to sleep with your man? Like, what have I ever done in my entire life? I've never sharked. I've never gone after any man. I've never done anything of the sort. Why would you view me that way? Like, why? You know? Whatever. We end up not talking again for a bit. And we're not talking for a bit, and she calls me at 3 a.m. And I'm like, oh gosh, like, you know, and at first I don't answer it because I'm like, oh, it's 3, you know, I'm tired. But then she calls again. I'm like, you know, and again, we're not talking at this point. And I'm like, she could be, you know, she could be hurt. She could be like really needing me. I answer. First thing she tells me, she's like, oh, I made out with this person. Like, what do you think about that? I'm like, I don't care. It's 3 a.m. And she's like, oh, well, I'm outside the guy's house. Like, I want to tell him something. And I'm literally like, whole thing. Oh. He just made it clear he did not want to talk to her. And she was outside his house again. And I was, mind you, again, me and her had not talked. We weren't good. She calls me and I'm thinking, you know what, maybe she's drunk. Maybe she's like, hey, I want things to be good between us. No, it was about the man again. And after that, I'm like, I just can't. And we had a big falling out, and she's not in my life anymore. And I honestly felt such relief. Like, of course there's a grief, but it's just like, I say all this long story to say, like, how draining is that, being friends with a woman who only cares about men, who only cares about wanting to be wanted and feeling any form of, like, if that attention isn't on her, it's a threat.
And not even that, like, I feel like despite, like, the guy doing her dirty, like, horrible, like, she was still going back.
Yes.
You know, and like, that reminds me of, like, a friend, she had wanted to pursue someone, and I told her straight up, I'm like, don't do it. Like, you know, like, it's not going to end good for you.
Yeah.
And, you know, as her, like, best friend or, like, her GBF, whatever, like, I put in my 2 cents. I told her what would happen. She didn't listen. And, you know, and she still went and did it. She got her heart broken. And, you know, I mean, I'm not going to be like, I told you so. But I told her. I'm like, I told you.
Yeah.
And she's like, I know. I should have listened to you. And I feel like it's a difference in maturity. Yeah. Like, you know, like, she didn't blame me because, like, the guy broke her heart. You know, like, she blamed the guy that did it. And, for example, like, you with that girl, like, her, I mean, I don't think you had told me, but her being like, oh, can you promise me not to sleep with him? Like, why are you thinking about that?
What?
Like, you know,
you're
like, either
crazy.
She probably thought you were, like, the worst person ever.
Yeah.
Who, like, would instantly do that. But, like, no. Like, you didn't, like, you didn't even talk with him anymore.
And to me,
why would she think?
I'm a big believer in, if people think you are going to do something, it's because they would do it to you. Yeah. So I'm like, you're thinking this because if roles were reversed, you would hook up with him because that's how obsessed you are. Right. What can I do for that, you know? So that is like my big negative experiences, I guess, you know, when you play the role of a GBF. But I do want to shout out, and we have, how many beautiful women do we have in our lives? Like, who have just the best souls, who have been there for us when we're at our worst. Like, let's be real. 9 times out of 10, a woman friend is better than a guy friend. Like, let's be so real.
Yeah, because, and, you know, I don't know if it's because, like, maybe it just stems from, like, empathy. I feel like women, like, have, like, you know, maybe it's because, you know, they're so in tune with their emotions, but I feel like they just understand to, like, a deeper level. Yeah. You know, and I feel like, for example, like, I feel like I have kind of, like, I'm not going to say I'm a woman because I'm not, you know, but I feel like I have a really good understanding of women because I was raised by them. Yeah, same. You know, like, my mom, obviously, my tia, my grandma, like, my dad, he was always working, so, like, you know, he's my dad, but, like, I don't consider him my dad. Yeah. I mean, no, well, he is my dad, but, like, I don't have the emotional connection that I have with, like, my mom. Yeah, of course. Know? And
you have sisters.
And I have sisters. I mean, I have no brothers. I have only sisters. Yeah. And only cousins, too, like, that are women or girls. I mean, I'm not gonna say like, oh, I'm gay or like I'm a GBF because of my family. But no, I feel like I am a better GBF because of my family. Yeah. You know, like, I mean, my tia, like, she taught me to be more like aware of my emotions. You know, like, whenever I wanted to cry, like, she never made me feel bad for it. She always like, no, like, if you want to cry, cry. Like, I feel like you learn empathy from women, and that's why, like, male friends are not, like, the same. No, like,
especially male friends who are only ever with other males.
You can't expect a guy friend to be the same as a girlfriend.
Essentially, yeah. No. And if you really think about it too, gay men teach straight women a different form of empathy too. Yeah. Because, like, you know, you learn a little bit, especially, like, I mean, if you're a white, straight, cis woman, I work in the healthcare field, especially HIV. The amount of white, straight, cis women who have became so much better at being allies, at understanding, because you see the impacts, you know? Like, when you work in these spaces where it's a bunch of queer brown men, queer, like, brown and black men, you know, you get to see their perspectives. But that could start young, you know? You might not know what it's like to be a gay man, but if your best friend's gay and he tells you, like, my parents aren't talking to me because I can't, like, you learn, you know, you grow, which is also why it's disappointing if they surround themselves with homophobia. Yeah. Like, if they, I'm like, you know.
Because, like, are you a hypocrite?
Exactly. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but I feel like there's benefits to it.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, for sure.
I feel like for me, the benefits outweigh the negatives. But, like, because I feel like my life is pretty, like, boring. Mm. I wouldn't say boring. I would refer to it as peaceful. Yeah. You know, like, I don't have, like, even my friends, like, my friends don't have, like, not like problems, but like there'll be relationship problems, but it just takes me back to high school. Like I recently went to a Friendsgiving, and my friend was telling me about this guy she's talking to. I love that. I love just like being the person they vent to.
Yeah.
Because like in a way it gives me, like, I just take notes, like experience. I'm like, okay, like this is how I should address that.
Yeah.
But like the purity of the connection between like a female a cis woman and like her best friend that's gay.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
It goes together.
It goes so well together.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why it's such a like successful trope.
Yeah.
For gay men.
Yeah.
To be the GBF.
It's just now we hope that there's a pivot. Instead of they're both main characters. You know, it's not just one's the main character and one's supporting. Like, no, this bond needs to be symbiotic. It needs to be 50-50.
It needs to be equal.
Yeah,
exactly.
and then it'll be the most beautiful friendship ever, honestly.
Yeah, because I mean, I talk to all my girlfriends, even like the ones that I don't see every day. Like I know that's how strong and like our like friendship is, that like we're still what, like 30? No, we're not 30. We're 25. I'm 25.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I know our friendships are gonna last forever.
Yeah.
Because that's how solid we built them.
Yeah.
And it just takes time to get to that point.
I agree. I honestly, the last thing I really have to say is like a little something I've been told. So when I came out to my pops, I was like 15, 16, and he took me to see this older white woman. Her name's like Dolores. He was like, this is somebody I do work with. I would like you to talk to her. And I had no idea why. I didn't understand it. And so she sits me down. She's like this old white lady, like 70, 60. Whoa. Yeah. And for white people, like she might as well be 400. You know what I mean? And it's an antique shop, which is ironic, like, of course. But so she sits me down and she's like, your pops wanted me to talk to you. I'm like, okay, like about what? And she starts off right away. She's like, I just want you to know, like, I'm a fag hag. And I was like, oh, okay, like, whoa. But
you can say that?
You could say that, but she talked to me how, like, her best friend growing up was this boy, and that she was like, I, like, loved him so much, and I saw so much things of him, and back then, we didn't even have the term gay. Like, and it makes sense. We learn a lot of stuff from media, we learn things about ourselves because of online. But if you were just brought up where that word is if you're never even taught the meaning, even if no one even says gay is bad, if you just straight up don't even know, you're just not going to understand it. Oh. And she talked about how, like, her and this best friend, she lost him because of the HIV/AIDS epidemic, and how much that radicalized her. And, like, seeing these people who she loves die because of discrimination, prejudice, like, it really changed her. And she told me, and it always stuck with me. She's like, she says this. She's like, I feel like gay men are the evolutionary next step, because you guys have the femininity and the softness and the caringness and the empathy that comes with being a woman, but also the strength, the bravery, and the courage that comes with being a man. And as a gay man, you need to have both of them, and to really be, like, quote unquote powerful, is how she said. And that always stuck with me. And, like, she's older, but she's seen it all. I mean, she saw the AIDS crisis, she's seen gay marriage be legalized. She's seen don't ask, don't tell, and throughout it all, she's never changed her stance on being that ally. And, like, her son is gay, like, she's just somebody who's just, like, so reinforced with it. And to me, that's like, I know your GBFs don't play about you, you know what I mean? Because she doesn't play about them. Mm-hmm. And that is what a good relationship should be in that dynamic.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Right? We love you, Dolores.
We love you, Dolores. Wherever you are.
Wherever you are, and whatever your name is. Yeah.
So you know for sure. It's
But yeah.
She's with all her friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, pros and cons, like everything.
Yeah.
But it's just what you make out of it.
Yeah. And just know your worth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to lose or to not know what you're worth because of the people you're around.
Wow. 100%. 1,000,000,000%. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Yeah,
we're back.
If you do, I hope you tune in again. It's not, you'll get back to it.
Yes, 100%.
But I love being back.
Me too.
It's fun.
We're so back.
Yeah, we are, and we're not gonna promise a weekly video or like a bi-weekly. maybe bi-weekly.
Yeah, but we're gonna be back. You know what I mean? Yes,
Yeah.
we're not gonna disappear for months. No, and we're gonna be more active. You know that we're getting more help. Like my cousin Mia. Yeah. She's gonna be making clips for us. So at the very least, if I don't have the energy, you know, to just make a quick like, it'll be consistent, and we're good. We're gonna have consistent output, and again, we're so back.
You know, season two, better than ever.
100%. It's only gonna get better.
Exactly.
So join us on this ride
again. You know, but you know, no.
Literally
this
again.
Is like, okay, like season 1, I feel like is more kind of like, you know, roller coasters when you like, it's just woo.
Yeah.
But this is kind of gearing up to the top. You know, like, to where we want to go.
To where we want to be.
Will be.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know.
So
thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm Andrew. I'm Drew.
I'm Leo.
And this is the DL Show.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Bye.